Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Heart of Strength. Heart of Strength is where we dive into those topics that matter most. My name is Delina Watson, and today's topic is one that touches every single one of us, whether we think about it or not, and it is legacy. Leaving a legacy. Now, legacy is a word that I think we usually hear it primarily after someone has passed or someone that's done something very monumental, right? We think about their legacy. But the truth is that legacy isn't reserved for just those big monumental achievements. It's not reserved for those that are powerful, rich, famous. It's really about something that each of us are creating every single day. You're already leaving a legacy, ladies, even if you're not aware of it. Today, we're going to unpack what that really means, how we can become more intentional, and why legacy that you leave, that it really might be the most important thing in your life. Honestly, there's so much that we are influencing others with. And so legacy is one of those things that we really need to realize while we're here what that legacy is. So what is legacy? It's not just what you leave behind. It's not what you leave behind when you're gone, but it's what you're building while you're here. I want to say that again. It's not necessarily what you are leaving behind, but it's what you are building here. It's the way people feel when they're around you. It's that ripple effect, right? It's a ripple effect of your values, your words, your actions. It's how you treat others, how you show up for your family and for your friends, the lessons that your kids are going to pass down. That's what legacy is. It's also about the value that your team at work or in a volunteer setting, those teammates that you're working with, it's really about what will they remember when you move on. Even if you're moving on to another division in your company, it's about the legacy that you're leaving behind and what they will remember. It's about your meaning, truly your meaning. So I want you to ask yourself, if you disappeared today, what would people say about you? I ask that question because I think some people want to kind of avoid the topic of passing on, dying, right? But if we start to think about our legacy, I want you to be inspired. I want you to think about that. Help you start living on purpose. We've talked a lot in other episodes of Heart of Strengths about purpose, goals, what we're doing with ourselves and the things that we work on, right? This is really for you to start thinking about, I need to live on purpose in order to leave that legacy. I want to tell you a story about, really not a story, but just about my grandmother, who really has left a legacy, not only for me, but for our family. But my grandmother was a woman that loved to have people in her home. She loved entertaining. That was her gift. Her gift was showing God's love by hosting in her home. And I think that I have acquired that because I modeled what I saw with her. On Sundays, she played the piano at the local little Christian church. It was a little country church, beautiful little building. And she would, before church, she would get up very, very early in the morning, prepare lunch, have it all ready. She would go to church, she would serve, and anyone that was visiting that day at church was invited to come to her home for Sunday lunch. We would go on Sundays and eat lunch with her. And so I saw that she constantly had strangers, right? She had people in her home. She left that legacy for me. She left that fact that it was about what she was doing, living in purpose, right? Now, if I could only be the woman that she was, but I do strive to serve others and to have them. There's nothing more joy for me that brings me joy than to have people in my home. I love it when our children are here. I love it when friends and family are here at our home. Maybe it's your grandmother. Maybe it's your grandmother who raised 6 children, right? But still found time to volunteer. Or maybe it was your high school teacher that really invested in you and believed in yourself, believed in you before you believed in yourself. There's so many people that have made an impact on us, right? Maybe it was a neighbor. Maybe I've seen where there's been people that go out of their way to help others and never ask for the recognition. Leaving a legacy. What made these individuals that you think about, and me with my grandmother, what made their legacy wasn't perfection. It was presence. That is really good for all of us because we're not perfect, are we? But to know that it's not about the perfection of what we do. It's about the presence. Now let's talk about what gets in the way of building a legacy, because I do think there are some things that keep us from really focusing on that. And one is just our busy schedules. Ladies, I know we are busy. We've got a lot of things. We're powerful women, and we strive to take care of so many people, work, home, friends. And so I know the life gets busy. You're trying to keep up with life, and it's easy to kind of slip into that survival mode, isn't it? But the truth is, it's not about those little, those moments that you're letting things go by. It's not about milestones, right? It's really about just the day-to-day things that you're doing, that you're reflecting who you are. So even in the midst of busyness, I think sometimes we can kind of take a pause and take a look at what we're doing and make sure that it is helping leaving that legacy. Second, I think is doubt. I think sometimes we think that, I'm not that person that makes an impact on others. My job, I'm not in a leadership role, or moms that stay home. I think a lot of times we feel, I'm not making a big difference out there in the community. But guess what? You are making a difference. We all can make a difference. It's really about what we're doing to accomplish that. It's about, it's about just being there. But I don't want you to underestimate the legacy of love, patience, integrity, encouragement. All of those things are a piece of what makes our legacy. And that's what we want to remember. I mentioned perfection earlier, right? I think that sometimes we really feel like we're not all together. We're not perfect. And so how in the world could we make an impact on somebody else and leave a legacy? But our story matters. I tell everybody, we all have a story. We all have a story to share. It doesn't matter if it's messy. Guess what? The messy stories are the ones that make such an impact. And so think about that and start utilizing what you have experienced as part of your legacy. Now, I want to go through 5 ways that you can start shaping your legacy. All right, we're going to talk about those. So the first one is live your values. What are your values? Identify those core values that you have. What matters to you? Is it honesty, kindness, creativity, loyalty? Live those values consistently. And when your life aligns with your values, your legacy writes itself. As long as you are identifying what those core values are. So that's the first thing. I would say the second thing is invest in people, right? Relationships is really the heartbeat of legacy. What do I mean by that? I mean, mentor, right? Take somebody under your wing and kind of mentor them and what they're going through. Be present. Be present with your kids. Say you're proud of them. I know we all do that, but again, we get busy. Make time, recognize, when was the last time I told my son or my daughter, I'm proud of you, right? Your influence multiplies. Your influence multiplies when it's passed through others. So I want you to think about that, particularly with your children, that your influence, you're not only influencing your child, you're influencing the next generation after your child, right? Share your story. We've all been through things. We all have a story. Someone else needs to hear it. Don't wait for a platform to be able to do that. Don't wait to say, oh, I will do that when I can get up in front of, an audience, or I'm going to tell my story when I can write a book, or, I need to do that when I'm in a Bible study with a group. No, you don't need to wait for those moments. Share your stories on a daily basis, right? Stories are the fuel to build legacy. The fourth thing is create traditions and habits. It's not just built, legacy isn't just built on what we say. It's also the patterns that we repeat. It's the things that we're doing, the traditions. One thing, my family, my children, as they were growing up, we did Sunday family dinner. And so even when they got into high school and they were all driving and they had activities, we said Sunday evenings is family time. We would prefer you to be home, spend time with all of us together. We eat, we watch a movie or just visit. It was a time of reconnecting. We continued that tradition, okay? All the way through, and some of you know that my husband died tragically in a motorcycle accident. Once he passed, life changed. But what happened there was that I had to get an understanding that my children now have their families, their individual activities that they're doing. And so, over time, the children started moving, right, out of state, on the other side of town. And so those family dinners have stopped. But what I hope is that those traditions are still there, that they can be passed on to their families. That's part of the legacy. And maybe they don't continue the legacy of family dinner on a Sunday night, but because that was instilled in them, maybe they come up with their own tradition, right? It's hard, ladies, especially if you've got adult children that are starting their own families. You want to keep your traditions in place. But I think sometimes we have to step back and go, okay, we've built the legacy, that tradition, and now it's time for them to make their own traditions and start their legacy. That's hard to let go because we want our children, right, to be with us for every event. And that's just not possible at times. And we want them to build their own traditions and legacies. The fifth thing and the last thing on how we can continue to work on our legacy is serve. Serve consistently. But not only serve consistently, but quietly. Don't do it for others to see. That's really the most powerful way of building your legacy, is when they're built in secret, that people notice without it being acknowledged or seen, right? It's that kindness without the cameras. I'll give you a story here. Reagan, as some of you know, has spent a lot of time in the hospital. Reagan is my daughter. Growing up, she was in the hospital a lot. Well, we always laughed because Reagan spent, I know, the first 4 Christmases in the hospital, and then she spent more Christmases there through the years. And I would joke with her and say, you just want to be at the hospital because it's fun during Christmas. There's celebrities that come. There's lots of food and toys and activities through the holidays. What we found was that a lot of times those celebrities would come, but they were always followed by a camera. It was a time for them to show that they were serving in the community and that they were giving of their time during the holidays to those children. Now, that's not a bad thing. But there was one football player. He played for the Dallas Cowboys. He would come during that time. But what we learned through the years, and we got to see him and spend time with him, was he would come at minimum once a month. No cameras. He would walk in, he would check in, and he would walk the floors of Children's Hospital, meeting the children, giving them autographs, talking about football, showing an interest in those children without the cameras. That's leaving a legacy. That's an example of doing that without anybody seeing. Again, you don't have to be famous. You don't have to be rich. You just have to be living on purpose, okay? Live on purpose. That's the true way of starting to build your legacy. Every conversation, every decision, every act of love, it adds up. You might not see the impact now, but someone's watching. Moms, we know, as children are growing up, they are watching every move you make, right? Your coworkers are watching. They're watching how you handle situations. Someone is changing because of you in the way that you are handling situations. And here's the best part. It's never too early or too late to shape that story that people will be able to use. As long as you are breathing, it is not too late. So I would say, let's start looking at our lives and start trying to build that legacy. Now, I have a challenge for you before we close. I want you, after this podcast, I want you to take 5 minutes. I want you to grab a notebook and I want you to write these 3 things down. I want you to write down what kind of legacy you want to leave? I'm sorry. What kind of legacy do you want to leave? Then I want you to write down the people that you want to impact. You can name names. You can name areas. Maybe it's work, employees, other volunteers. You don't have to specifically leave names, but if you've got your direct family, probably you want to leave a legacy for them. You might write their names down. I want you to start identifying what areas of your life do you want to leave a legacy? And then I want you to write down one thing that you can do this coming week, that you can live it out. It could be something so simple as picking up the phone and calling someone. It could be sharing just a piece of your story if you're not ready to share the whole story. Maybe it's just a piece of your story. Maybe it's starting a habit with your children that you haven't done, right? Something small. It doesn't have to be big and grand. Something small but meaningful. That's what we're trying to achieve this next week, okay? Remember, your legacy is already being written, so let's write it with intention. I really appreciate you guys being with me today. I hope this was beneficial. I want you to keep building, keep loving, keep becoming that person that they'll talk about long after you're gone. Have a wonderful rest of your day today. And just remember that I am praying for each of you that are watching these shows on a weekly basis. And thank you. Thank you again for the support that you're giving me.